Hi everyone, welcome to the fifth Conversations program with I'm Totally Speedway's publisher and editor Daniel Powell. Thank you. Our Conversations program is supported by LA Racing Lubricants, so thank you very much for their support. Tonight we've got on tonight's program Toowoomba's Hi-Tec Oil Speedway and Queensland Operations Manager Bennie Bishop. We're going to be talking to him about all things Speedway promotion, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just to give a bit of a rundown because you, as fans, want to hear what it's like to be a promoter and what goes on behind the scenes. And we've got Bennie who's willing to talk to us and give you guys a bit of an insight. So, Bennie, thank you very much for making the time for us.
Hey, mate, no problem at all. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Okay, so Bennie, give me a bit of you're well known for your commentary now as a track promoter, but tell me, let's start from the beginning, how Speedway came about for yourself. I understand you're originally from Bundaberg in Queensland?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah, so as a kid, we didn't have a whole lot of money as a family. And so when I would see Speedway roll into town, it was just like I so desperately wanted to go to it. You know, for me, my buy-in with Speedway is nothing more than I just love seeing cars go sideways on dirt. I know that sounds really primal, but that is the reality of it. And so at a young age, you know, I had my own Speedway that was in our rumpus room, and it was on a big sort of an old disused table, and I used to do the Hot Wheels thing and Matchbox thing and make car noises. And yeah, ever since from there I went through. So I started writing newspaper articles for our local newspaper in Bundaberg when I was 14. And that was pretty cool because that's when I first met guys like Alan Butcher, and one of my first interviews was with him and heaps of big names, and they were doing the Speedway thing a lot up there at the time as well, so that was cool.
Yeah, so with that, and what's your first memory of Speedway? I ask a lot of my guests for that, but what's the first memory for yourself at the track of a Speedway?
Ooh, that's interesting. You know, it's not actually a track. I was sitting at the front of my house once as a young kid, and there was a trailer across the road that had parked because we lived across from a park, and there was a trailer that had parked there, and it had, and I can still see it, which is pretty amazing, a Monza super sedan.
Yep.
And just the look of that thing and its stance, I think, was what hooked me in, and that's when I said, Dad, can we please go to Speedway? And we went out and watched this thing race, and yeah, and that was it. So the actual, for me, it was at Carina Speedway, which I look back now and go, I didn't realise how good I had it because that was such a great racetrack, and it was a long track as well, and very fast. I really loved the Grand Nationals back then.
Yeah.
And just the wine and the way that they sounded was just amazing. And then, of course, we had our own local hero, Peter Catasti, who was a Queensland champion, and I went to school with his son, Nick, and so they're my early memories.
Peter Catasti was a sprint car racer, wasn't he?
That's correct, yeah, Queensland champion.
Yeah, okay, with that. So, okay, and then, so as you've touched on a bit from the writing point of view, writing for the local newspaper and all those sort of things, what happened from there? How did you...
Well, that's where it all sort of changed, yeah. I sort of lost my connection with that because I got really heavily into music and started touring in bands and things like that, and that's where I met my wife in a band and moved to Tasmania and did some youth work down there. Actually, when I first got married, we spent 18 months living on Great Keppel Island Resort, working there and doing entertainment. So music sort of took over my life, and then youth work took over, and I just on the odd occasion, I would make it a youth group activity, the youth group that I was leading, to take them to Latrobe Speedway. And so that was part of my getting my while still doing my job. So went to Latrobe lots and lots when I lived in Tassie for about 10 years.
Yeah, so you weren't entirely disconnected from the sport of Speedway because you drank
no,
there.
Yeah. yeah, but it wasn't like, I still bought my magazines and all that sort of thing to keep in touch with it. But I wasn't actively involved. It wasn't until I was about 34 years old, when I started doing some drag racing commentary at Perth Motorplex because we lived in Perth at the time. And then doing that led to some Speedway stuff, and then it just all went from there.
So we're talking probably, what, the early 2000s when you started working at the Motorplex?
Yeah, 2008.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's nearly 10 years that I've been back in the game, so yeah.
And with that, and then so what developed from there in terms of like doing commentary and things like that around the Speedway? How did things develop from there?
I think, yeah, I guess I've never really sat down and thought about it because you just sort of take the opportunities that you get. So when World Series came to town or anything like that, I sort of started to get to know people at a more administrative level, and then right at the tail end of our time in Perth, that's when the Speed Car Super Series was on, and so Shane Collins, who was at Speedway Australia at the time, said, "Hey, would you want to come on the road and do that?" And that was perfect for me because we were moving to Queensland back to be closer to my family, and got the opportunity to do Speed Car Pro Series, and then that led to World Series because Wade then took the full-time job with doing the USC thing in Sydney. The opportunity opened up there, and it just sort of, I guess it just steamrolled from there. I knew Speed Green through doing World Series stuff in the past, and when they took over under Barry and Felicity Waldron, decided to buy or take the lease on Charlton Speedway. Steve Third, the guy who lives in the Gold Coast, directed to do the job. So I still live in the Gold Coast, but manage the Speedway from home, which is about 2 hours from my door to the Speedway gate. Yeah.
So how did the whole thing, when you got offered this opportunity to be the promoter, so that was the mid-2015? I think
that's right, yeah, May of 2015, and man, it was a baptism of fire.
Yeah. So what were you thinking? Were you just like, okay, was the deal offered to yourself and your wife Vanessa as the job, or was it just you initially, or how did it all work?
Well, yeah, it was at that time because Steve had an administrative genius, and so I couldn't do the job without my wife. She did everything like that, so she takes care of all the staff and all those sorts of things, whereas I take care of more of the entertainment side and the organising and liaison with divisions and things like that, and the general making stuff happen, you know. So, but as far as all of those different things like keeping tabs on gates and all that sort of stuff, thankfully I've got a wife who knows what she's doing. She has no Speedway background at all, and so
her Speedway was just your influence sort of thing. So and it tends to be sometimes I get so embarrassed because these guys, I don't know who these champions are, and I should show them respect, you know, who the big names are of the sport. And sometimes I say to her, babe, you know what? The fact that you don't know them is probably really good for someone. So you don't know their history, sort of thing. So,
that's right.
Yeah. So with that, so how have you found it? So you're currently in your third season as the operations and events manager for Hi-Tec Speedway. Tell us a bit about how you found the first couple of years, like as you said, a baptism of fire. But it sounds like you're not the type of guy to back away from a challenge.
Yeah, that's probably right. And I think I wouldn't say that administration's my major strength. For me, give me a microphone or give me a drum set, and they're my happy places. And that's where I've spent most of my time. And you know, taking care of people with pastoral care and stuff in church jobs and things like that. So for me to come and do a job that was, it was not just about let's go and run a speedway. But as you could probably tell, like if it was just about running a speedway, I think I'd probably have my feet up on the table and everything would be cruising along beautifully. But because we tried so hard and we're working so hard at changing culture and changing the way that Speedway is presented to the nation, that's what really makes it difficult a lot of the time, because it's just a struggle to help people. You know, like one of the things about leadership is about taking people where they don't necessarily want to go, but when they get there, they're thankful. And so that journey of playing a leadership role, of changing the culture of how we present the sport and what our rights and responsibilities are as a competitor group and all those different things. To change those mentalities is, I mean, most of that stuff is literally decades old, the way we do Speedway. And so to come along with a new approach and try and get it across the line and help people to see, hey, if we do this and we pull together and do this, this could be the outcome. This is how we can get back into mainstream media. And so that's the tough part. That's changing people's mindsets. And, I've got great people around me. One person who's amazing for me is obviously Wayne Baines, who started off as just being our race director and chief steward for sprint cars, but he's become a major player in what we did here in Toowoomba, and now he's doing all of the USC rounds in some form as either a race director or a chief steward, and he's just phenomenal, Wayne, and we're a great combination. The other major player is Ryan Harris, who you'd know well, and he obviously cut his teeth promoting in Kingaroy and Maryborough, and I like to call him the Pied Piper of sedan racing up here. It's almost like when Ryan says something, he carries so much credibility that people just trust him.
Yeah,
and so
that's a big thing in Speedway. Trust.
Oh, massive. So the three of us together, of course, and then with my wife, and then we've got just ridiculously good volunteers and great people. That's how we're sort of changing those mindsets and really starting to get some wins as far as the way the sport needs to be presented.
So how have you found Speedway and presenting it or promoting it in the Toowoomba region? Obviously, that's a growing area. They've got the airport now. There's a lot of infrastructure that's really coming into Toowoomba. How have you found the general, when you stepped into the role, how did you find Speedway was perceived by the Toowoomba community?
That's an excellent question. So Toowoomba, let me give you a context, and for all of the guys who are in on this webcast, Wayne Meyer from Speedway Star, he's the guy who's, done lots of shirts and everything and has been the world's biggest guy for merchandise forever. When he first heard that I got the job, he said to me, "So, Toowoomba, hey?" I said, yeah, looking forward to a good challenge. He goes, "Bit more than a challenge." I said, "Oh, okay." And I was being negative, but he wasn't. He said to me, "Mate, let me warn you." He said, "Out of all the racetracks I've ever been to in Australia, that is the one racetrack where I could hardly sell a thing because they could just never get a crowd."
Okay.
And I was like, wow. So that has proved to be true in the context of that. So Bunbury is a speedway town. They know the surnames. Warrnambool's a speedway town. They've got that sort of, that history, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't buy
Toowoomba is, Toowoomba's 110,000 people, and its history is really quite old and forgotten as far as, this is a 40-year-old venue. 40, just to clarify, it's 40, yet it's not embedded into Toowoomba history, and that's part of our role is to make Toowoomba a speedway city. It's 110,000 people, the second biggest inland city in the nation, only second to Canberra, the national capital. So it's got potential to be there.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's got Will Power, obviously, one of the greatest, Australia's greatest motorsport competitors currently still. And Toowoomba's known for its motorsport. There's a lot of on 2 and 4-wheel categories that have come out of Toowoomba. Yeah,
it's amazing, but you would think with that would carry with it that there's a motorsport culture here, but I would, I'm not being negative when I say it just doesn't have one. It just does not have a motorsport culture.
So when you walked into it, like obviously Wayne Meyer saying good luck sort of thing, wish you all the best, but good luck. What were you thinking when you got into there? Were you going around and visiting the Speedway people or trying to introduce new sponsors? That's obviously a big thing for the venue as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's mostly for us has been trying for credibility, because credibility is the key. It really, really is, because when you look at, say, the Ultimate Sprint Car Championship, for example, and you see these transporters rolling to pits, and you just go, gosh, there must be, there's a few dozen teams in this nation that would have probably $1 million infrastructure when it comes to sprint cars alone. And then you look at that, and then look at people, the non-Speedway people's perception of what Speedway is, and it's still stuck in fender bender world.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal back in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
The fender bender culture was massive in Toowoomba. So people just think, oh, there's guys out there with their
crash. Yeah.
And that's it. So to try and change that, we just had to get in there and do lots of stuff, be at local gatherings, get in with the council and just help them to see, holy cow, this is like legit. This is full on high level motorsport. This is not bad to crash yet.
And how's it, I've 3 years or 3 seasons in now, or currently in the 3rd season. How has it changed over this period so far?
Well, I think the best people to talk to are the caterers. Joe Ramier has been here for the whole 40 years, and he said, look, we've never had crowds like this ever in the history of the venue. And so it really is working. But, there's been a lot of different people that have played a massive role in that along the line, Doug Schultz, Joe Ramier, and then Alan Woods was the guy who visionarily, took 2 metres out of the infield and made it into a very, very quick bank track, which was a massive, massive player in it being such a cool venue as well. So I think, we're getting there, and an average, like a normal sprint car show for us, pulls about 2,000 people. Yeah. Our Ultimate Pink Night, November 18, will pull around 3,000, but would be more, even though for those Ultimate Pink Nights, of which one's at Murray Bridge this weekend, they obviously have a lot of females, but even the actual amount of paying customers goes up because you're bringing in females in for free. So we'll have over 3,000 people here on November 18. So yes, it's obvious from a crowd point of view, but obviously the balance of that is we've spent $2 million on this venue and putting a 40 square metre video screen in, and the place just looks a picture. So I think you've got to understand the context of what we're trying to do here. Barry Waldron, obviously he's quite wealthy from how hard he's worked in his industry, but his return on investment is not financial. His return on investment is getting a smile on his face because he sees the sport being presented the way it deserves to be presented. And so that's not to say that he's just going to keep burning money up. Our goal is to get all 3 of the venues, Murray Bridge, Sydney and Toowoomba, to a place where they're self-sustaining. That's the first goal. And obviously we've had to be pretty aggressive with what it costs us to do things to even have a chance of getting close to that.
So how is that, obviously there's been wholesale changes around Murray Bridge, Valvoline Raceway, but Toowoomba's stayed pretty steady. Is that because you've just looked it's working sort of thing in terms of what you guys are achieving up there?
Because we've got a vision of, and it's a long-term goal, and we're just trying to keep chipping away at it and not expecting to change the world overnight. I think our original plan was to get this to self-sustain within 4 seasons. By the end of the 4th season, we'd be at a place where we have got everything sorted and we know how to budget, when to do our events and everything like that, and learn as much as we can so that we're not in the red. It's still costing us on a season basis, if you include my wage and Vanessa's wage, we're still in the red of what just to actually run this venue. But as we grow and we know the actual environment here, we get more credibility in the town, we're well and truly hit into that. And even heaven forbid, actually make some money, Dan, one day.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And that's, because promoters do cop a lot in terms of the flack. Damned if they do, damned if they don't. You're the type of guy that's, you and Vanessa are just great people skills. Do you still cop a lot of flack still, even though you're a likeable guy or a likeable couple?
Not a bit of time. Maybe because I haven't got I like to talk things through with people, but by the same token, I'm the type of person that if you do hit me up with something or challenge me or go off at me, I'll confront it. I won't sweep it under the carpet. And so, when people have come up and they've gone, this, and in normal Speedway fashion, that was just me being angry on Saturday night. Well, I phoned them on Monday and I say, okay, what's that about?
Yeah, come on.
Because, mate, because you know what? One of the things that the competitor groups need to understand is that, yes, this is my wage, but obviously it's really a part-time wage compared to the amount of work that goes in.
Yeah.
And what competitors need to understand is that anybody in the administration in this sport is facilitating your hobby.
Yeah.
And once a competitor realises that, that's when maybe they won't abuse that official. Maybe they will actually try and preserve people. And, you know, there is quite a high turnover of volunteers in our sport. We're very, very thankful to be able to retain a lot of our guys, but that's because I guess we tell our guys, hey, treat them with respect, because the whole point here is to enjoy our sport.
And that's the thing, without volunteers, you don't have a sport. That's the backbone of this whole sport.
And then I think that's what really sort of in that when I start talking about saying things like our sport could actually, it is only a generation away from extinction. People say, oh, come on. I say, hey, how many new speedways do you see being built? Since Moama and the Motorplex was 20 years ago.
Yeah, Moama was like 15
we've got
years ago.
Yeah. So how many big speedways? None. We're not building new facilities like the building industry is.
Yeah.
We're having less. And so instead of finding reasons to take more out of the sport, maybe we need to turn around and realise, holy cow, we need to contribute to this if we want to sustain this thing, because that is the key word, in my opinion. The Speedway, the key word in this sport at the moment is sustainability.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, Ben, you probably already know this, but this may not. There ain't no Speedway promoters in this nation who are making ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah,
None.
Exactly. Does that worry you to a degree, you know, on the sustainability of the sport, or is it just does it motivate you more so you try and rally people around to go, okay, let's look after this sport, because it is in a fragile state, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think you've chosen good words that will say a fragile state. No, I don't. I think worried is too strong a word.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we have to work really, really hard to gently steer the ship and turn the ship in the direction of sustainability, because it's not at the moment. It definitely is not sustainable at the moment, at the current rate of crowd size to cost of running an event. And I think that's where it probably is a little, it's scary, not from the point of view of will I have a job. That I don't sort of think like that, but by the same token, I'm really concerned that the next generation will not know what Speedway is, purely because we just let it go and took it for granted that these tracks are still going to be here and they can run on the smell of an oily rag. And I think that's where the thing is. We can still keep doing our sportsman thing, getting out there and getting our car sideways on the weekend, but as far as taking the sport forward, that's the bit that concerns me, that we may miss the boat on that.
Yeah, because you're seeing, like, one of my strong opinions is the fact you see all the teams raising the bar, like with first-class equipment, you know, like we only have to look back 15 years ago, you know, like, and the way the transporters are presented, basically they've got rolling workshops now, and they didn't have that, you know what I mean? Like, someone rocks up with an open trailer with a sprint car, and you're just looking at them going, what? Sort of thing, like you just said, that's just the level of the professional, not taking away anyone that does rock up with a trailer, because that's the beauty of the sport. But do we see that the rest of the sport is lagging behind because of these cars and the professionalism from the teams and the cars themselves? Do you feel that the rest of the sport is lagging behind in that degree?
Excellent question. And my answer as a Queenslander is, I couldn't be more proud of the way that the races and the teams present themselves up here. And no, I'm not talking just about sprint cars. I mean, modified sedans here are just magnificent. Obviously, Queensland's now, I guess, arguably the capital of super sedan racing now for Australia in the numbers strength point of view, and those guys do a great job. I mean, we've got some really, really clever people up here, and the sport is very strong, and I think it's very presented. I don't think it's a problem with the way they present. The thing that will hold us back is just the old school thinking. And I get it. I really get it, man, because we've got some really amazing places like, say, Archerfield and the Ekka Ground in Brisbane, and everyone in Queensland has got a memory of, I used to go to the Ekka Ground, the place was packed.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, we've missed the connection between the place was packed and there was lots of money to go around back then, and now the places aren't packed. So clearly the money's not there to go around, to pay out, massive payouts to do per car, payouts and things like that, and appearance money. That's one of the major mentalities that's got to change, because it isn't actually in line with any other motorsport in Australia. Speedway cars are still getting paid to turn up to a place that doesn't have much of a crowd.
Yeah.
And
you're pretty lucky. Yeah.
Oh, it's ridiculous, yeah. And so I think that's one of our biggest sustainability issues, is that there is going to have to be a move towards a user pays approach to racing for us to have this in the next generation.
Yeah, they're like very similar to road racing, where it's just all the cams, you rock up, you race, and no crowds there, but you're just getting your excitement, but you're paying your entry fees in order to
that's right. And I heard today Will Power's dad, Bob, he goes to Warwick, and I think it cost him, I can't remember whether it was $220 or $280 to race. I think he gets 3 10-lap races. That
spread over 3 days or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's and so if you were to say to the Speedway community, all right, it's going to cost you $220 to turn up and race, and there'll be no prize money, you would actually get shot. But that is the reality. That if there isn't a massive crowd there, then how else do you sustain it?
Yeah, and that's the sad truth. Do you feel that people are starting to see the ways of sustaining the future, or is there still people that are still holding on to the past?
Another great question. I think we're right in the middle of it, and I guess I would say I believe the next 3 years in Speedway will be the telltale as to whether we've got a really good, solid future or not. And because it'll come down to the sustainability of the venues. I think what needs to be considered is that, and you've got to keep in mind too, Dan, I didn't know this before getting this job.
Yeah.
I just thought, like everybody else, that, there's a good old promoter making heaps of money. I had no clue how expensive it is to run a Speedway legitimately. And when I say legitimately, like paying the right tax and doing everything right insurance-wise and having every I dotted and every T crossed, and it's just so ridiculously expensive, it's unbelievable. And OHS and all those different things. Yeah. The next 3 years, I believe, Dan, to answer your question, will be the telltale in the sustainability of actual venues. And if venues can stay alive and actually make some money, then we've got a future. I think there's one of the things that we've got a problem with in Speedway is not just a problem with Speedway as much as it's an Australian issue, and that is we really begrudge someone making money. But we need to understand that development is in the hands of the entrepreneur. Yeah. And if somebody's making money, then they will actually be able to potentially grow the sport. But if they're not, then it's not going to grow, because it's in the hands of the venue operators. And we should celebrate it when a venue's making good money.
Yeah, because that means the sport's healthy. So
yeah,
and with that, and take us through a regular week for a promoter. How does it all work? Obviously, you guys don't run week in, week out. Take us through a regular week of you, say, leading up to a meeting.
So now we've got our very first sportsman event this weekend, and the sportsman event is trying to achieve the very thing that I've just talked about, which is no actual tow money or anything like that. It's just creating an opportunity for people to come and race their car and enjoy it and have no pressure, because obviously with the USC stuff, there's a massive emphasis on entertainment. And so we focus it, we crack the whip. We try to make our shows 3.5 to 4 hours long on a USC night, whereas a sportsman event is, we just take our time and enjoy it, get the barbecue. sort of thing. So to answer the question about what my week looks like, it's very, very different in the preparation for a sportsman event as for, say, a USC event. The USC event, we're always playing different angles. So it's really long hours in that week leading up, because we get, for every event, we get 3 stories on local news. Yeah. We get 2 stories in the newspaper. We've got, obviously a very concentrated social media presentation as well. And so to put that all together and have all the TV ads and radio ads and all of that stuff all done in advance is it's pretty full on. So they're quite long days. But the emphasis for me in my job is really about getting bums on seats. That's what my job is to do. Yeah, and I've got really great volunteers, and Barry himself. As I look out the window here, Barry's in the water truck. He's electing to stay here at Toowoomba this weekend instead of going to Murray Bridge for peak night, because he wants to make sure the track's good for the sportsman night. So so we're just working really hard, but it's more spending time. I reckon my job is 60% on the phone then. Yeah.
So just teeing up, making sure, teeing up coverage, talking to competitors or sponsors, or a bit of everything?
Yeah, for me is about creating culture. And so for me, whether it's talking to our volunteers or talking to racers, got some concern or whatever, it's still the same. Every phone call is still the same goal, because I'm still trying to point it in the direction of, we've got a great future here. Let's make it work. Let's enjoy what we're doing. A lot of the time when I'm talking to competitor groups and competitors, maybe they're a little bit upset about something and angry. I say to people, you need to remember that this is a recreation, and by definition, that's recreate. On a Saturday, you need to come out, relax, enjoy yourself, and go racing. And I understand you'll be passionate, you'll be fired up if there's a bad call and those different things. But the problem with so many people I see in Speedway, Dan, is that a lot of people in Speedway are businessmen. That's where they get the disposable income to race a car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And they are stressed during the week, trying to make a buck in a really tough environment in Australia at the moment. But I find they should be coming to the racetrack on Saturday just to chill out and enjoy, and then get in their race car and have some fun. Yeah. But a lot of them are more angry on a Saturday than what they are at their businesses during the week. Yeah. Just chill out, mate. Just enjoy it. This is, So a lot of my time on the phone is just trying to create and steer the culture of the venue and the organisation.
Yeah. And how, as you've said, Speedway carries the whole tag of, we're just a bunch of bogans and all that. But as you probably know and understand, as you can probably talk about, there are so many entrepreneurs and big businessmen that have got a lot of pull in Australia outside the Speedway track. How can that help drive this sport forward? Certainly, I'm of the opinion that it certainly can play a big part.
Yeah, definitely. I think,
and not just sponsoring events, by I think the background of helping drive the sport forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's tough about that is that there's some really, very, very talented businessmen in our ranks. One of the things we do, I guess, at an event is that we take all these businessmen who, in most cases, are aggressive businessmen. They know how to get the job done, and that's why they're successful. And there's a fair bit of ego involved with that. There's a fair bit of,
Speedway
well, that's the thing. We take their business egos, put them all in the pits on the Saturday, and then expect them to actually go together and go in the same direction. And I think as much as we've got very, very talented people, what really is needed is leadership at the top to be able to pull those resources together and head it in the same direction, to be able to pick and choose who's got the best talents and insights in any given area to be able to tap into for the good of the sport, because while you just leave it up to everyone's opinion, then it's going to go in as many different directions as there is people that are asked their opinion. And so really it comes down to leadership at the top to be able to pull all that together so that it does go in the actual direction.
Yeah. And do you feel that there's certain elements where, as you were saying, like in Speedo, people begrudge people for making money. Do you feel that that prevents certain people from getting closer involved with driving the sport forward?
It's hard to say. I guess.
Depends who you talk to.
Yeah, there's definitely mentalities that have to be broken to answer your question. To be able to do that. We've just got to get into that mindset of celebrating people's success instead of being jealous of it or bagging it out. And, you know, you only have to spend 5 minutes in Australia before you work out that we do have an issue with tall poppy. And we've got to, instead of finding reasons to pull people backwards, we need to learn how to propel them forward and celebrate their successes, you know, because one thing that we probably don't get in Australia is that if anyone's in leadership, they have to be a success for any of their followers to be a success.
Yeah.
And so this track, Toowoomba, needs to be successful for all of the constituents, all the racers and the fans to successfully enjoy their pastime.
Yeah.
But somewhere we forget that. So for Speedway Australia to be successful, then Speedway Australia, the organisation's got to be successful. But we spend more time probably talking about what they should be doing and whatever, and pulling it down in a good old Australian way, instead of going far out. My job is to make sure, make my contribution to making sure that Speedway Australia is a success. And if they're a success, then my sport's a success, and then I become successful in that sport.
Yeah, yeah. And you're seeing a lot like with Speedway Australia, the way that they're going forward. They've got a great team. There's, you know, there at the moment, and they're really pushing forward. And you just have to look at World Series to reflect to see what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're making some really good steps forward, and I think the guys there are switched on, and I think they're very clear about what they want to do. I think one of their major mandates, and I hope I'm saying this right, and certainly the way that I take it, is that the sport is very fragmented, and that team down there of Tim and James and Liz and Sean and the rest of the crew in there, they really are working on how to defragment the sport. And so exactly what I was talking about 5 minutes ago, readying it, getting it prepared to be able to travel in the right direction together. And I think they're doing that. They're simplifying the sport. They're simplifying a lot of the insurance side of things. I think they're simplifying a lot of the divisional stuff and just making the whole sport so less fragmented. I think that's a great start.
That's good. And speaking of Speedway Australia, 2016 at the awards night, that's for Speedway Australia's awards night, Toowoomba's Hi-Tec Oil Speedway got most improved track. What did that mean for you?
It's the C word again, credibility. That means the credibility within the actual city for us is the main thing. So when people have got that perception that this is just a, rusty fence, ants biting your bum while you sit on the clay hill mentality of what it may have been in the past, when they read in the newspaper or see that it's the most improved speedway in Australia, the same as our good mates up the road at Kingaroy, they just won that award in the last award ceremony. That credibility for Kingaroy and for Toowoomba is massive, because it just sends the message home to the local crowd that, the local potential fans, that, gosh, we should give this a crack. But along with that, we've even changed our marketing. In our TV and radio ads, we mention the word Speedway once, but we mention the slogan Toowoomba's best family night out 3 times. Yeah. Because we want to get away from promoting, it's not about the steak, it's about the sizzle. This is a great place to bring your family. And so having an award like Most Improved Speedway just reinforces that, hey, this is a good place to go. Yeah. I remember when we first opened up, I had a lady run up to me there, and she was so animated that I thought she was about to knock my block off, because I thought something really bad had happened. Not embellishing the story, this is the way it played out. And she goes, I can't believe it. I said, oh, and she goes, these are the most beautiful toilets of any speedway I've ever been to. And you go, who would ever even talk about that? That stuff matters. Oh, God, I can't tell you how much creature comfort, and particularly looking after females at speedways, matters so much.
Yeah, because they're the ones on the hill supporting the drive. There's a lot of races these days in the pits, but there's also the ones that are looking after the kids on the hill and all that. And they need to be they need to have these comforts because otherwise the drivers, because if the wife's not happy, the driver can't race. I think that's
no just about that at all. Absolutely, 100%. We try to look after the kids too. We've got a full $40,000 playground at all three of the made-to-go venues, Murray Bridge, Sydney and here. And that's great because that way you can go down there, let the kids have a run around and then go back and watch the race and give them a break. And we've got a lot of feedback about that being a really good thing as well. And
speaking of made-to-go, do you feel that, like obviously the three tracks, they've really pushed the sport forward, or pushed these three tracks in particular forward? Murray Bridge in South Australia, Sydney's Valvoline Raceway in New South Wales, and your track, or the track that you manage, Toowoomba's Hi-Tec in Queensland. Do you feel that the rest of the sport, the rest of the other tracks and the ones that aren't affiliated with made-to-go are moving forward as well? Are they seeing the level that Speedway can be pushed forward from your?
Yeah, I do. The organisation copped a lot of criticism at the start because a lot of people said, you guys are setting the bar so high and Barry's got this endless checkbook and all you're doing now is making the sport unsustainable for all the other tracks. And Baz doesn't get offended by anything, really.
No.
He was a bit like, you've got to be joking. Surely, it was a terrible tall poppy thing that he legitimately just wants to improve the sport and set it in the direction that it deserves to go. But what people did at first is really bag it out. Now I think, people get over things, and I've noticed at different tracks that maybe some of the ideas that were brought in the early years, 2 or 3 years ago, with the USC and things like that, I see other tracks implementing those concepts, and I just think that's great. It's not like you sit back there and go, oh, it's maybe no idea. Not at all. It's just like, that is so cool that we've got the privilege to be able to have the resources to be able to set a standard that other people come up to, and that's just your presentation. I mean, having said that, Dan, there is so much room for us to improve, and what's going on with made-to-go tracks is certainly not writing the Bible on how to promote Speedway. There is just so much more that we can do, and there's so many other tracks that are doing wonderful ones. The reality is you've got to, first and foremost, tailor your promotion for your environment. And so what Billy Barrows has to do down at Mount Gambier could be extremely different to what we have to do at Toowoomba. It might be very different to Gavin Myborough at the Motorplex. Yeah. And so while you've got, just different environments, different foundations for what you're working with, and different things and mentalities that you've got to change in your town, that will determine how you promote them. But I think what made-to-go has been doing really well is been doing some things that overall, for the overall sport, present the overall sport really well.
Yeah. And also, with obviously you're well known as the World Series commentator for the last couple of seasons, going around again this season. How does it help your job being able to go around and visit other tracks? Does that help? You're able to see how things are done? Does that certainly complement your role at Toowoomba?
Yeah, well, I think that's the question by actually saying the opposite of that. So, with being a commentator for World Series has actually, being a promoter has actually helped my job as a commentator, because being a commentator is all about the depth of the well, how deep the well is and what you've got to draw on. So now that I know, I've had 2.5 years of education on a really intense environment of watching how 3 different tracks, not just one track, but 3 different tracks operate. It's actually changed the way I do commentary, because I realise so many of the other things that are required. But yes, to put an exclamation mark on your question, absolutely. I get to see things, and now I can talk to a promoter and say, mate, that's awesome. What you did the other night with that or whatever idea that you did, I get it now. I get how hard that is to pull off. And so I've given them a real heartfelt congratulations because I understand that a lot more. But I learned so much. I'm very, very privileged from a track promoter's point of view to get to see most of the major venues in the nation every year and just see little things that I like and be able to, the way they do social media or the way they do their schedule. There's so many different things that I can learn. I take notes all the time at different venues of things that I'd like to adopt. And sometimes obviously things that, holy cow, never make this mistake with the thing that you just saw here or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so with that. And then one final question, Benny. Tell me a bit about why you love Speedway, and now being in the coalface of Speedway, is your passion for Speedway still there as much as it was before you took on this coalface role as a track manager?
I'm going to have to give you the honest answer. I would say it's definitely worn it down. It definitely has. No, then I've just got to be vulnerable with you and tell you that. I can't get on here and go, oh yeah, mate, fantastic, I'm all fired up. Yeah. No, it's certainly, I think the frustrations that we talked about a while back about just the inability for people to understand how we're right on the cusp of the sport going either way. It's that to me has probably worn me down when you see some people. Social media probably is, as much as it's been a wonderful free tool for us, it's also obviously raised its head as a voice and a platform for people who are flipping haven't got a clue. And they just make these little comments that just run off the mouth and they don't realise how destructive it is. Not to me personally. I'm a little bit tougher and old enough to handle that stuff. It doesn't really bother me. It's more the disappointment of, oh my gracious, just when I think that we're starting to get it, you find these people who are just completely clueless. Completely honest with you. Yeah. That stuff does. It's certainly taken the shine off it. But as a fan, I get a far bigger kick now out of just sitting at a racetrack and not having any commentary headphones on and not having to worry if there's enough hot dogs and worry about the street. So if I go as a fan, I have I really enjoy it probably more than what I do. That's the balance.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and that's another thing with volunteers, how they are so hard to come by. The social media flack that people do cop, it certainly drives volunteers away going, well, why would I want to be part of this if I'm going to cop all this backlash?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one because when you're making a comment, when it comes to the promotion of Speedway, I'm all for the whole heroes and villains. And I don't think anyone argues with you on that. Yeah. It's all about, we think of the Gene Wells days, the sedans where he got out, bag out the RVs and all that sort of thing, and Gary Mason, who just makes me laugh, with some of the stuff he's done over the years, just to stir the crowd and all those things. Yeah. Everyone wants heroes and villains until they're portrayed as the villain. and that's a bit of a problem because someone's got to be the villain on the racetrack. But I think we're not at a point where, if you're a NASCAR driver and you understand the entertainment game and you understand that it's just as important for the success of NASCAR for you to be hated by some people and loved by others. Yeah. They know that. As drivers, they don't take that stuff personally. They just go, this is part of the show because I am a character playing a role. But in Australia, in Speedway, it's way too personal for that. And so when you make a comment about a racer, the person who actually gets offended most, I've noticed, is the wives of the racer or the girlfriend. They're the ones who get really down about it. And I understand that. But if we're serious about actually entertainment in the future, we're going to have to be able to take it on the chin and just go, this is part of the drama and the theatre playing out that only Speedway can provide,
Yeah, because it provides so much. So, Benny, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's really insightful. I hope a lot of our viewers have enjoyed it as well, but I think hopefully, you've enjoyed it too, being able to, something different sort of thing. That's what this Conversations program is about.
Yeah, no, appreciate the opportunity, mate. Keep up the good work, and no doubt I'll see the racetrack somewhere this season.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, Benny.
See you, bud.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks, LA Racing Lubricants, for the support. Really enjoyed having a chat with Benny. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. It's all about, you guys wanted to speak with someone, speak to a track promoter and get their thoughts, and now you've got it. So please like, comment, share about this. Once again, thanks to LA Racing Performance Lubricants for their support of this show, and thanks to Bennie Bishop from Toowoomba's Hi-Tec Oil Speedway for making the time. Next week, we are going to have newly crowned Australian Speedway Grand Prix World Champion in Jason Doyle. So he's making time. Hopefully, we might be able to get him live here in front of the camera. If not, we're going to do it over the phone like we've done with Bennie Bishop here. So thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. Please like, comment, share, and get this around. I think it was a really good show tonight in terms of getting a different perspective about this sport and how it's going to move forward. So I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon when I'll be doing the weekend preview. So thanks guys once again for tuning in, and thanks for LA Racing High Performance Lubricants for their support. It's very much appreciated. See you tomorrow. Thanks guys.